My name is Nora Kessler. I'm authorized. And for most of my adult life, I've been the one my family calls when the math stops working. Not the fun aunt. The fixer, the one with the steady paycheck and the checkbook that never seemed to run dry, at least not to them. Last Thursday, before I'd even had coffee, my sister Renee texted the family group chat, need $8. $400 by Friday for Ellie's Sweet 16. Deposits already down, just need the rest. Then came the photos. A downtown ballroom with a chandelier the size of a kiddie pool. A hand-calligraphed seating chart for 90 guests. And a 3-tier cake iced to look like a designer handbag. $650 for the cake alone. I stood in my kitchen holding my phone like it had just handed me a subpoena. But the text isn't what broke something open in me. What my father said 10 minutes later did that. By 7:28 the next morning, my whole family found out exactly what I'd been hiding from them for 11 years. If you've ever been the one who quietly holds a family's finances together while everyone else gets to look generous, stay with me. This starts with a cake and ends with a spreadsheet. I read Renee's text 3 times, and each time my eyes went straight to the total. Because 11 years of doing books for a living does that to you. You stop seeing a party. You see a number. And you already know whose account it's coming from. She hadn't texted me privately. She dropped it in the group chat. Photos and all. My mother replied in 90 seconds, 3 hearts, and she's going to look like a princess. My Aunt Carol sent a row of clapping hands. Nobody asked how it would be paid for. Because in my family, that question has only ever had one answer. And the answer has my name on it. Nobody hands you a bill like this all at once. It gets built just this once at a time. The first one I remember was Renee's transmission. Back when Ellie was 5 and the car died in a Walgreens lot in February. May when? EBAT just this once. Then first and last month's rent. Then a phone bill she swore she'd repay by the 15th. Then a credit card that had somehow climbed past $5. Ling, ling, ling. Each request came wrapped the same way, urgent, small enough that saying no felt petty, and sealed with, "You're the only one I can ask." And I moved the money before I let myself feel it leaving. Because feeling it would mean admitting there was a pattern. And admitting the pattern would mean I'd have to do something about it. So I didn't count. I kept the receipts in a drawer I never opened. The way you keep a fire extinguisher you assume still works. I never once let myself wonder what I'd be worth in that family if I stopped fixing things. I grew up the oldest daughter in Loveland, Colorado, in a house where money was tight and affection was loud but conditional. Renee was the one people worried about. I was the one people relied on. Those aren't the same thing. And the second one is lonelier when you're the reliable one. Nobody checks on you. They just check whether you're available. 6 weeks before that text, I'd quietly started paperwork on a townhouse in Denver, nothing fancy, a cracked patio slab, and a view of a strip mall. But to me, it was a cathedral. I'd been saving for the down payment since I was 28. In one locked account I never touched. My loan officer had been blunt: keep the reserves clean. Don't move large sums before closing. Don't do the one thing my family had trained me to do on command. That $8, $400 would come straight out of the first thing in my life that was only mine. And that, more than the cake, is what finally turned the key they were reaching. Without knowing it, for the exact drawer I'd spent years learning to keep shut, I called Renee, kept my voice light, and asked what the real total was, not to argue. Just to see the whole picture. A pause. Why does it matter? Family takes care of family. Nara. That's just what we do. There it was. The whole religion of my house in one sentence. It never means all of us take care of all of us. It means the ones who can carry, the ones who won't. And everyone calls it love, so nobody has to call it what it is. I asked again, how much was the venue? The dress, what had already been put down. Renee sighed like I was the difficult one. You already covered the venue hold. Back in September, this isn't even that much more. I sat still. I did remember the way you remember a dream that turns out to be real, a frantic call in September, a card number read aloud so Ellie wouldn't lose the date. I'll pay you back. I'd said, sure, and closed the drawer, the way I always did. Now she was pressing on it, and I realized I had no idea how many other things in this family had my name quietly attached to the bottom. I pulled up my statements, $1. Low bat on my card, under my name. For a ballroom I'd never dance in. Before you decide, my father is simple. Let me tell you what I saw 2 Thanksgivings ago. I walked into the den for a phone charger and found him at his desk, writing a check against his and my mother's retirement account against a credit card statement that wasn't his. It was Renee's. He wrote it the way a man pays a ransom. Quickly, quietly, hoping nobody walks in. He saw me. He slid the statement under a magazine. We've never spoken of it since. My father, who preaches that family takes care of family, has been drowning in the same water he keeps pushing the rest of us into. He didn't write that rule. He inherited it from a childhood leaner than the one he gave us, where the only way anyone said I love you was by handing over money they couldn't spare. He isn't cruel. He's afraid. He believes all the way down that the day the checks stop is the day his daughter stopped coming home. That afternoon, I decided this time would be different. It wasn't a lightning bolt, it was a 36-year-old woman at her counter, telling herself for the 40th time she'd finally asked the hard question out loud. I opened the group chat. I didn't type no, I've learned no. Just starts a fight, you lose slowly. I asked instead, could we see the full budget? Itemized. Before anyone talked about who was paying what, my thumb hovered over send. And I felt the whole architecture of my life lean against that button. Send it. And I stopped being the reliable one. Send it. And I finally find out if they love me. Or just my availability. I sauntered for 4 minutes. Nothing. The longest silence my family has ever given me. Then my Aunt Carol, since when do we fill out paperwork? Nora, my cousin Brett, wow. It's your own niece. My mother, threading the needle, I'm sure Nora didn't mean it like that. I had meant it exactly like that. Nobody sent a number. In my family, a request for a figure is met with a feeling aimed at your conscience, because the system depends on you never being allowed to look at the math. Then Renee escalated. And I need you to see how, because it's the most honest thing about her. A photo landed Ellie in a fitting room mirror. Floor-length dress. Trying to smile and not quite managing it. Caption, guess I'll tell her the party's off. Since her aunt wants a spreadsheet, she'll understand. For 1 full second, it worked. My chest went tight. My thumb went reaching. But the accountant in me refused to sign anything just because someone was rushing the deal. I looked at the photo, again, not the dress. Ellie's face. She didn't look like a girl afraid of losing a party. She looked like a girl afraid of what the party was doing to the adults around her. That was the first crack in the story I'd been telling myself. I drove to Loveland the next morning, believing right up until the moment I found out otherwise that my mother would stand with me. She was at the sink. Before I'd taken my coat off, I saw the chat. You've always been the strong one. Nora. She said, in my family, that's never a compliment, it's an assignment. Would it kill you to just smooth it over? Just this once. Even my mother, the peacemaker, had a checkbook where her spine should have been. Peace in my family has only ever meant one thing. Nora pays. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. Ellie was waiting on the porch steps when I got home. 15 and 11/12. all elbows and eyeliner. You don't have to pay for it. Aunt Nora, she said, not looking at me. I never even wanted the ballroom. I just wanted my actual friends. A backyard, some string lights, not 90 people I've never met. It's not really for me. My 15-year-old niece had figured out in one sentence what took me 11 years and a drawer of receipts to name. The party wasn't about her birthday. It was about my sister proving to a family that measures love in dollars that she loved her daughter the most, and Ellie was the excuse for a bill she'd never asked for. I put my arm around her. I decided right there, I wasn't going to protect the party. I was going to protect the kid. That night, I pulled the drawer out and opened a spreadsheet, because a drawer is a feeling, but a spreadsheet is a fact. Column A, date. Column B, what it was for. Column C, amount. Column D, paid back. Column D was going to be very lonely. I started with the transmission 11 years back, Yuan, EBAT, and worked forward, refusing to round anything down. The security deposit, the phone bills, the check this summer, Ellie broke her wrist. The venue hold in September, line after line, each one small, each one wrapped in urgent kindness, each one closing the drawer tighter. Around 1 a.m, I stopped and stared at the total Sisher Timeyan, Babe Wusher. Over 11 years, not $1 in column D. I didn't cry. Crying was a feeling. And I'd retired those for the night. Sisher Timeyan. 850 is a car paid in cash. Most of 2 years of a kid's college, a down payment on a townhouse. I'd given my family a house I'd never live in, one emergency at a time. So quietly, they genuinely come to believe the money simply appeared. I hadn't been helping them. Helping has an end point. It makes someone stronger and then steps back. What I'd been doing had no end built into it, because I never wanted it to end. An ending would mean finding out who I was to these people when I wasn't paying. Rebuilding the spreadsheet. I pulled up the actual contracts. The venue hold was on my card, under my name. The cake deposit when Renee's card declined went on my card too, just for the hold. The dress layaway was in my name, because you have better credit. They'll approve you. For 11 years, I'd felt like the family's wallet passive, opened on demand, but a wallet has no power. A signatory does. If the holds were mine to place, they were mine to release. My name was the only thing holding the whole delusion together. And a name you gave without meaning to is a name you can take back. Before anything drastic, I gave them a door. I texted Renee, let's sit down. Just us. And build a real budget. I'll put in a real number. In the open, no more surprise holds. She called instead of texting. So that's it. I'm a line item now. To my own sister, I told her that was the opposite of what I'd said. You want a meeting? You want me to justify my daughter's birthday to you like I'm applying for a loan? There it was, the whole difference between us. To me, a budget was respect. To her, it was an accusation. Real families don't count. She said, actually crying now. I didn't argue. She meant it all the way down, raised in the same house I was, where the highest form of love was to give until it hurt and never check the bill. She hung up before I could answer. Then the vendors called, and the trap fully closed. Because the fog had a deadline, the venue emailed balance due in full within 72 hours. Card on file would auto-charge. The bakery texted. The boutique called about the layaway. Everyone addressed to me, because everyone was tied to my account. I know some of you are yelling at your screen, don't pay it. Block them all. It wasn't that simple. If I did nothing, The charges would hit my card in 3 days, straight into the credit line I needed clean for closing. And a party I never agreed to would become real on my dime. My phone buzzed. Dad. I knew before I answered he was calling to close the exact door I'd just found. My father doesn't raise his voice, and that's what makes him effective. Nora, this has gone far enough. He didn't ask my side. Renee had already given him her version, and he'd accepted it whole, because her version never asks anything of him except money. And money he understands. He explained the family to me like I'd forgotten the rules. I was the oldest. I had the good job. Your sister struggles. You don't. It means something. Being the one who can. I stayed quiet. Into that silence, he said the sentence I'll hear for the rest of my life. Gently, like it was obvious. Pay up, Nora, or you're not really family anymore. There it was, the price of my membership, itemized at last. I'd been paying $47, $850 over 11 years to avoid exactly that sentence. And now I knew the actual price. And I decided it was too high. Okay, Dad, I said in a voice so steady it surprised us both. I got very calm the way I do at work when a number comes in that changes the whole audit. If I paid the $8, Sibect, I'd be buying not a party, not Ellie's happiness. She'd already told me she didn't want any of it. I'd be buying another decade of exactly this. My father hadn't threatened me. He'd made me an offer with unusually clear terms: keep paying, stay, family. What kind of family charges admission? I read the venue contract line by line. The balance was due 72 hours before the event. Or on demand, I could still cancel before it posted. I'd lose the $1. $600 deposit either way. But I could stop the rest from ever leaving my account. Same with the cake and the dress. Added up. The hold still in my name came to almost exactly the $8. $400 I'd been ordered to wire. I'd just be deciding it stayed in my account instead of leaving it. But the clock was already running. I could stop this only that night. At 1104 that Tuesday night, I called the venue's after-hours line. A young man named Dallas picked up, clearly eating something. And the biggest turning point of my adult life happened on that call. I need to cancel it all. I told him. He read me the terms, typed for a moment, and said, "Okay, ma'am, that's canceled. You'll get an email." Then he went back to his sandwich, and the ballroom was gone. I called the bakery and canceled the cake. I logged into the boutique and stopped the layaway. 11 minutes, and a whole version of me quietly ended. I opened the family chat one last time and wrote that the holds, the venue, the cake, the dress were canceled because they were in my name and I couldn't let them stay there any longer. I told them I loved Ellie, that I wouldn't explain myself over text, and that I'd be at my parents' at 7 the next morning if anyone wanted to talk. Then I printed the spreadsheet, all 11 years of it, and set the folder by my keys. 728A. I got to my parents' house at 650. Renee's car was already there. I'd barely closed the door behind me when her phone lit up on the table. Screen up. And we all read it at once. Your reservation has been canceled. Timestamp set 28. Renee's face went through an entire weather system in 2 seconds. What is this? The venue, it says the reservation's been released. My father looked up from his coffee. My mother froze at the sink. Nora. My father said slowly, "What did you do?" I set the folder on the table. Squared to the edge, I canceled the holds that were in my name, all of them, last night. The kitchen erupted, and I noticed I was the only person in it who wasn't afraid. For once, I already knew every number on the table, and they were only just discovering there had been a table at all. Renee came at me first. You ruined it. You waited until the last second to make a point because you can't stand to see anyone else happy. My father stood, that's enough. Both of you looking at me, not her. My mother, crying, Nora, honey, we can fix this. That word, fix, was the last push I needed because I knew exactly who we meant. I didn't raise my voice. I never have in that house. I waited until the noise ran out of steam, then slid the folder to the center of the table. Before anyone says another word about fixing, I said, I want everyone to see what we've actually been fixing for 11 years. I opened it myself. Sishirtsi Mayan. Babai Wusher. 11 years. One empty column D. 4 faces going pale in a kitchen that had spent a decade insisting we weren't the kind of family that counted. I could have closed the folder right there. Offered to cover the $8, $400 one last time, and let everyone forget this happened. I'd have kept my chair, my title, my father's approval. I didn't take that road. I looked at my sister and told her the truth. Renee, I paid for all of it. The venue, the cake, the dress, my card, my name. This whole time, every line here is me too. I'm not showing you this to hurt you. I'm showing you because I love you too much to keep lying about what I've been doing. And then I'm not canceling because I stopped loving Ellie. I'm canceling because I finally started. That sentence cost me. I watched it land my mother crumpling. My father turning to the window, Renee's mouth open with no sound, and Ellie in the doorway, eyes filling. I didn't take it back. Every cell in me screamed to soften it. I let them hurt instead, because the alternative was to keep us all sick and call it peace. I told them what I needed going forward, no more surprise holds. No more finding out after the fact. And I told Renee the door was still open. We could build Ellie something real, something we could both afford. A number on the table where she could see it. She didn't answer. My father walked out the back door. My mother sat down and put her face in her hands. It wasn't a happy ending. Nobody hugged me. But standing in the wreckage of a morning I'd chosen, I felt something I'd never felt in that house in 36 years. I felt like myself. Not the wallet, not the fixer, just Nora. The weeks after were quieter and lonelier. My father didn't call for almost a month. My Aunt Carol stopped speaking to me. In some corners of my family, I'm the daughter who abandoned everyone over money. And I've learned you can't correct a story in a house that needs you to be the villain. But my savings stayed untouched. My loan closed in the spring. I signed on my little townhouse, and I cried in the empty living room, not from grief, but from the vertigo of a future that was genuinely mine. Renee scaled the party down to a backyard, string lights, and 25 of Ellie's actual friends. By every account, it was the best night of that girl's year. She didn't invite me a wound. I'm still letting heal at its own pace. But Ellie sent me a photo from that night, just her and her friends, laughing under the lights. Wish you were here. I hadn't paid for a single thing at that party. And it was, without question, the most love my family had ever made out of the least money, which was the entire lesson I'd spent $47. $850, never quite learning. 5 months later, Ellie texted me. She'd gotten a part-time job at a coffee shop, opened her first savings account, and wanted to know if Aunt Nora could show her how to build one of those spreadsheets. There was a trip she wanted to plan. And she wanted to know the real number before she asked her mom for anything. I sat down on my kitchen floor when I read that, because that was the whole thing. Right there. The chain breaking one link early enough to matter. Ellie was going to grow up knowing love, and a budget aren't enemies, that checking the balance isn't the opposite of love. It's what love does when it plans on sticking around. Renee called that same week. And for the first time in years, it wasn't about money, just my sister, telling me she'd been thinking about me. We're not fixed. We may never be entirely fixed, but love that keeps a ledger isn't love. And love that never checks the ledger isn't safe. And I finally know how to hold both. God willing. So will Ellie. If you've ever been the family ATM, the one who only gets a call when a card declines, you already know the truth. It took me $47, $850 to learn. Sometimes the most loving word in the whole language is no. If this reached something in you, tell me in the comments about the last time you finally said it.